Richard, who was here earlier from the Met Police as well, I don't know whether Richard's still here. Hi, Richard. What you didn't say was you provide the armed guards for all the gold. For those of you who don't know, all of the gold still exists. It's just not ours anymore. Right? I've seen it all. It changes hands a lot, actually, but it doesn't move. So we've got quite a complex stock control system. There's about 500,000 gold bars, and these guys can get there armed in 2.5 minutes. I know that because I went down there with the head of internal audit, and we didn't get clearance. And by the time we got to this big underground warehouse, there were 2 scary coppers with machine guns. So just before I talk about leadership, just a little bit about the IT in the Bank of England. I know you know that we do the interest rate, but a number of other things that we do. We do look after 80% of the UK's gold bullion market. We print all the money, and the paper money is going to polymer money in the very near future. Interestingly, in this digital world, the amount of cash in circulation is still going up by about 7% a year. So the polymer notes are quite interesting because they will last longer, be much cleaner, much harder to counterfeit. So we do that. We run the bank's large payment intraday clearing system, so I'm responsible for the UK payment infrastructure. We clear between 500 billion and £1 trillion a day. We collect many, many terabytes of data from what the bank call firms. You would all call them banks and insurance companies every day to do a lot of analytics. We collect, of course, a lot of official statistics to do things like the quarterly inflation report. I was quite surprised when asked to go and join the bank how complex an IT estate it has. And clearly we're working on the big data problem, and we're working on a thing that I call the digital social enterprise. And by the digital social enterprise, I mean getting the right data to the right people in the right form, on the right device proactively, i.e. they don't have to go and look for it. So we're involved in a digital transformation, and we've heard a lot of people talk about lots of digital things, and Darryl was very apposite as well on the 2-speed IT. I'm actually taking a paper to our executive directors on Monday talking about 2-speed IT. And what I've learnt in the bank, because it's full of lots of clever economists, is you need a bit of Latin. Okay? It's true. And Gartner call it bimodal, so I've stolen that, and I'm talking about bimodal IT, and they like that because, you know, it sounds complicated. So that will land well. And just one other thing before I start talking about the subject I want to talk about. Paul Coby from John Lewis talked about education and the transformation of education. I'm very privileged to be on Nottingham University's council, who are the effective trustees of the university. Nottingham University being a top 20 UK university, top 75 global university, and involved in a massive digital transformation. Every student now can connect with their own device and rate every single lecture and every single tutorial they're involved in. Every single university and school in the country needs your help, so I would say please do reach out to universities, to schools, to higher education colleges. Every single one of them needs a CIO or IT director to help them, and I really enjoy doing that at Nottingham University. But I was asked to come along and talk about a leadership subject and about change and provide one piece of insight. Now, I don't know how much insight I'm going to provide, but I'm going to attempt to do that. And the piece of insight that I'm going to get to is that all this digital stuff that we've heard about is nothing to do with technology, is nothing to do with marketing channels, is nothing to do with joining bits of data up, etc., etc., etc. It's all to do with the people and how we organise them and how we develop them to deliver this digital stuff. So my big idea, that's perhaps not that big, is recruit people you would not normally recruit with the express intention of becoming more diverse. And by becoming more diverse, you will get to more ideas and to greater innovation. And this was clearly a big deal at the Bank of England because, you know, I am a central banker now, but I'm in a very informal guise today because I don't have a white shirt on and I've got a patterned tie and a rather funky pinstripe suit as opposed to white shirt and pale grey suit. And so diversity is a huge issue for us. And so by approaching digital through a people strategy, we're able to help the bank and the people we interact with and all of you, hopefully, get a different central banking experience from us. And so the reason I think this is because in this digital world where we're doing things at speed and all the people have provided great ideas, this is about having our development teams and delivery teams and IT infrastructure teams really, really close to the people in the business and hopefully to the end customer. And I was at a digital breakfast recently and I did a little talk on digital. And one of my propositions is that the outsourcing deal, giving IT away to someone else, is dead. That's going to stop happening as we have to bring people back in-house and get them closer and closer to the business and to the end customer, or the people that we serve, for greater innovation. And so not only should we be recruiting people who we wouldn't normally recruit, we have to create environments for them that they can be successful in. As a core piece of learning we've had is we go out and recruit a more diverse workforce and they tend to leave quickly. Why? Because we're a load of stuffy economists and central bankers. And so we've been working very, very hard within IT to change the environment. We've created a thing rather snappily named the Data Lab. It being a space, a bit like this room, where we've got big flat panel TVs, we've got some of our younger graduates in there, and we're allowing them to do things they're not allowed to do, to get at different bits of data and to apply visualization tools, and to use open source and freeware, etc., but to turn around ideas really quickly. And people in the bank now come to visit the Data Lab, and the one requirement when you visit the Data Lab is to, in a not very digital way, is write a question on a sticky and stick it on the whiteboard. And the people in the Data Lab are working from right to left across the whiteboard, answering people's questions from a data perspective. Is there a housing boom in London? Yes or no? And is it being driven by mortgages? Yes or no? And we're turning those questions around really, really quickly by breaking down a lot of the IT controls. And that's an example of how, by employing a different type of people and giving them a different set of experiences, we're starting to break down some of the issues that we have with, frankly, we didn't have a bimodal IT. We had a modal IT that was pretty slow. And so we're doing some specific things in our recruitment, and just some thoughts for people to take away is, firstly, we're recruiting graduates who are very, very different to the graduates that we used to recruit. So in the good old days of IT, we'd go and recruit IT graduates from people on IT courses, and guess what? We recruited a load of nerdy blokes like me. Right? So we're now going out and just recruiting graduates. And we're getting a much more diverse group of people. We're taking entry-level people out of schools, and actually schools from the local community that the bank would never, ever think of recruiting from, so schools in Tower Hamlets, etc., etc. We're doing a lot of secondments. We are calling up the banks and other people we know and say, please can we put one of our people into your environment for a while? And they always say yes, because if they don't, we'll increase the regulation on them. No, I didn't say that. But no, they always say yes because they're really keen to work with the Bank of England. And so we're doing that. We're sponsoring students in universities. We've got a very big cyber defence programme, as you can imagine, because it would be pretty disastrous if someone found out if the interest rate was going to move or not, or they got to this confidential bank's data. So we're sponsoring students in some of the universities who are doing GCHQ accredited cyber security degrees. We are rotating our people around the bank, out into the banking business, back into IT and around IT. It sounds pretty basic, but that had never, ever been done before. And we're also working hard at changing the working environment. So we did have this thing called the Data Lab. We're now starting a thing called the Digital Lab. Also a great snappy name, right? But in there, we are knocking up really quick prototypes of what this digital social enterprise thing could be. So we're using a Jive prototype off the cloud. We're trying a Huddle implementation as well, just to show people different ways of working and a way of breaking down and operating at pace. So we're doing all of those things. And just a couple of comments to finish on. Somebody earlier on today talked about innovation can be cheap because we're able to work with suppliers and get them to do the work, and that is a really, really core point. I'd make an observation about the large technology suppliers that a lot of us are encumbered with for our legacy. I'm not allowed to name who did this because I'm not allowed to ever reference specific suppliers, but they might be big and they might be blue. Right. They came to us and said, we're going to do a software licensing audit. Okay. They came in and guess what? We'd virtualized the environment and built an internal cloud. Yeah? They've slapped on us and on all of you as taxpayers an extra £2.5 million of software licensing because according to the terms of the license I have to pay for software that I might use, even though I'm not going to. So make sure when working with suppliers we challenge these big legacy dinosaur ERP style suppliers and make sure we're innovating in the right way, because there are a lot of really good suppliers out there who really do want to be partners. So with that, as I say, I'm not allowed to name them, so I haven't done that, but my key message is recruit people you wouldn't normally recruit in order to drive diversity. Thank you.